Hello there, everyone, and welcome to GamePoints episode 261. Your weekly get-together, we talk about recent gaming news. I'm, as always, your host, Stephen Brown, and joining me today is...
David.
Tonight, David. EA has a foot problem. PlayStation Plus TV is being tested in only a very specific market, and this is why you should never pre-order anything ever.
Man, how many times do we have to have that PSA?
But first, I want everyone here to know that this is not an interactive podcast, so if you're watching here live at Twitch TV at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, or later over at youtube.com/GamePointsPC, feel free to join in the conversation with whatever questions, comments, concerns, etc. you might have. Just try to keep them germane to the conversation on hand. David.
Yes.
I have taken back to playing Divinity Original Sin 2 again. Now, this is something I do off and on, as you know.
I didn't even know that you started playing it, actually.
I mentioned on the show a couple times, but you don't pay attention.
I played a shit ton of it.
Yeah, you've beat it inside out. When I first started it, I got a hold of it, and I was exploring around Fort Joy, and I stopped, and then got back to it again. Finally finished up Fort Joy, and then I got to the mainland, and just went, I'm out. I can't handle all this shit.
I'm sorry. You're talking DOS 2. I thought you were talking BG3. That's totally my bad.
Yes. Yeah, I am talking DOS 2, not BG3.
I'm back on track.
Okay.
Yeah, the game I've been telling you to play forever. Okay.
So I finally sat down and started checking my bugs, because that area that we went was so massive. I was just like, no, I can't do this right now. I started getting like...
You didn't have the energy for it.
Yeah, I started getting anxious thinking about all the shit I had to do in it. However, as I started playing, I finally got back into it over the weekend. I started playing through it. I realized that map is not as deep as one might think. At least that first map there is. It really is just broken into like 5 or 6 big sections. Each section seemingly, so far from what I've experienced so far, dealing with one chunk of a quest.
Yeah, it's pretty manageable.
Yeah, it's nowhere near as bad as I want. Once I realized I can kind of break it up like that, because I looked at it as just, to use an example, Baldur's Gate 2, from way back when. Most of that game takes place in one city. No, I don't want to say most of that game takes place in one city, but that the city in Baldur's Gate itself in that game is massive. I thought that's what I was getting into when I got into that game, and when I reached that point. And I realized pretty quick, okay, this is manageable, because I don't like the way the journal works in that game at all.
Oh, okay.
And it's hard for me to keep track of everything. I don't think it does a good job of keeping track of things, and I was
so
not
going to. You don't want to get overloaded with quests and then have too many places to go and all
exactly.
that headache to deal with. That makes sense.
Once you kind of secure that first town, though, that town doesn't overload me nearly as much as stuff that I was going to. So it's a lot more manageable now. I'm more willing to actually start digging deeper and deeper and deeper into it.
Cool.
But that's what I've been doing. What have you been up to? Didn't you play something over the weekend you want to tell me about? I can't remember.
Dude, I'm back in Valheim.
Oh, that's what I was.
Yeah. Like I said, like I mentioned last time we talked about it, every once in a while I'm just like, you know what? I feel like just some survival exploration nonsense, which we made the joke when that game came out, that's the genre that doesn't stick with me. Something about Valheim, man. I still like it.
Yeah, I don't get it myself, but hey, you do it. That's a game
we had the discussion. I can't even properly just convey why I like that game, but it is what it is.
If it was like fully released, I might be a little bit more into it, but it's so in early beta access right now. I don't want to. It's why I'm not playing Baldur's Gate 3 right now, to tie it back into earlier. I don't want to burn through all the content that's out there right now and just keep playing that over and over and over again when it's fully launched.
That's fair.
That's just not me. Anyways, enough of the typical table dressing, as it were. Let's move on into the big stories of the week, starting off with EA's foot problem. So, we talked a couple weeks ago about the black market foot cards that were going around, where EA employees were essentially selling codes to get the high-end cards.
Ultimate cards, or whatever they're called.
These cards are rare, they're hard to get, and you have to sink... We don't know exactly how much, because EA doesn't tell us the odds to these things, but we know it was worth it for people to spend thousands of dollars to get cards to these.
Yeah, it's a cheaper way to do it than to try and doing it from the in-game lottery, as it were.
You can assume that it costs, unless you're extraordinarily lucky, a minimum $1,000 to be able to pull one of these cards, because that was about the going price for them. There was a big controversy where employees are doing the black market selling of these. It came out. EA said, well, this isn't right. Whereas people are going, well, this wouldn't be a problem if they weren't doing it.
My favorite part is EA was just like, our employees should not be selling that stuff. And that was their stance.
Yeah, they shouldn't be
Not
selling
that there's
what
anything
we're
wrong
selling.
with the system. they created that kind of demand. No.
Yeah, no. It was not a good defense on EA, in my opinion, and it just showed the flaws within the system itself.
Yes.
Another thing that EA has been saying a lot is that this isn't gambling.
It's definitely not gambling.
Even
though there's a bunch of countries that are saying it's gambling,
right.
It's definitely not gambling.
People can choose to opt out of it. It's just optional. It's there for you to enjoy if you want. And
so it's a slot machine, dog.
Thing. Well, a bunch of documents leaked today, I believe, or it could have been yesterday, within the last 24 hours, depending on when this goes up, that kind of runs counter to that narrative. This is via Screen Rant and Video Game Chronicle. Links will, of course, be provided down below. But the headline, FIFA Ultimate Team leak reveals how EA drives people to buy loot boxes. David, you know that very thing they say they didn't do. Let's go ahead and go to the article itself here. According to the CBC, several internal EA documents were leaked to it by a gaming insider who claims that the documents show that EA is trying to manipulate players into spending more money on the mode. The 54-page document appears to come from EA's sports division, headquartered in Burnaby, British Columbia, Canada, and it takes the form of a presentation of slides and bullet points. According to the presentation, EA claims that the FIFA Ultimate Team mode is the cornerstone of FIFA 2021, and the company is doing everything it can to funnel players from the game's other modes to FUT, where they would be engaged to spend money on loot boxes. In its last fiscal year, EA made $1.5 billion, or 27% of its net revenue from the Ultimate Team, because everything has one. Madden, NHL, FIFA, they all have a version of this. 27% of its revenue came from that specific mechanic. A third year in a row, the mode has generated over $1 billion. All roads lead to FUT reads the bullet point in the leaked presentation, explaining how the game includes content teasers and targeted messages designed to drive excitement and funnel players toward FUT from other modes. I don't know why anyone would ever put that in print at the company, the CBC's anonymous insider said. It's getting harder and harder to defend what is very obviously unregulated gambling. What are your first thoughts out the gate here, David, before we read what EA's response was?
I am so shocked. I am so surprised that the company that swore up and down that this mechanic that's not gambling feeds them a shit ton of money, and they're going to try and force everybody to do it because that's how you get money, and that's all they give a shit about.
But David, it's completely optional. It's just there if people want to do it.
Sure. Provided you click this text box so that you don't do it, and you also skip this splash screen so that you don't do it, and you ignore this thing that's talking about all your friends that have done it, and you don't look at any of these leaderboards that show the people that have it or not, and every other little thing that they put in these games to try and force you to do this.
Right. EA gave a rather lengthy response, and I'm going to actually read this in its entirety, and we will stop in between, because I was thinking of editing this down a little bit, and I take out the introduction paragraph. But for the most part, this is in its entirety. If you want to read it for yourself, you'll be able to do so. The link's provided down below. But there's so much shit in here that is just patently false, allegedly false. I'm going to make the claim that I do not believe them, I should say, for legal reasons.
I'm going to make the claim that EA can go fuck themselves. How's that?
That's fine. That's not a that's not a statement that can get myself in trouble.
Exactly.
From EA. We seek every day to provide players with content choices that fuel their excitement and connection to the sport and their friends, which is why we're so disappointed in recent media report about FUT, which ignored the important information and context, the result being a sensationalized story with misrepresentation of the facts. In EA's defense, David.
Yes.
I have been unable to find the full 54-page report. I have only been able to find 2 or 3 pages that's been specifically pulled from this to talk about this story.
That makes sense.
That said, I don't think we need any further context for those 3 pages beyond the context that EA has given us over the years already.
I mean, did they print it? Does it say EA on it? Does it still say the words that they say? I think we're in the clear on that one.
Yes. But hey, I'm just throwing that out there. If you guys can find the document and somehow they say something in that 54 pages that fully counteract that, I think
at the very, very end of it, it has a big JK or something. Then...
Yeah. And I think if EA was serious about this, they would have produced that document.
Right.
But going on. Okay, so the facts according to EA are: 1. We always look for opportunities to introduce more players to modes in our games. Our FIFA players are experiencing fresh content that makes service exciting, so that's a constant focus for us. In other words, as I tried to translate this in corporate speak, of course we try to funnel people to every game mode that's out there. We want them to enjoy the entirety of our game.
Yeah, you know, including all the parts that we hid behind random gambling mechanics.
2. We do not push people to spend in our games. Where we provide that choice, we are very careful not to promote spending over earnings in the game. The majority of FIFA players never spend money on in-game items.
They don't push because they hook. It's how gambling works.
Yes, they specifically use the term push, but the thing is, when you have people willing to spend thousands of dollars to buy your codes illegally, then clearly there is an incentive to get this shit.
Mm-hmm.
And tell me a single one of these games that you start up and you don't see a link to a online store of some kind. Right?
It's probably the first thing that pops up before you even see the main menu.
Let's be a little bit more base about this. A game, no company would add this into a game if they didn't want people to go to it to spend money on it. Yeah, they don't just add shit in there and go, yeah, but if you don't want to buy it, that's okay. We don't care. No, they very much care. And they will do what they can to
That's why they release 2/3 of a video game. That's the whole point.
All right. Next up. Summer is a very active time in our fruit community, and we assure that more of our new content and community events of the game are centered there. The new content that we introduce throughout the year The new content that we introduce throughout the year includes extensive non-monetized rewards. Decisions to spend are always entirely optional. David? How many times have we done the story where someone did up all the time it would take to unlock everything in the game, and it literally comes out to be like 500 years?
Yeah. Yeah, we've talked about that a million times.
That's not...
It's physically impossible to actually unlock the entirety of the video game.
At that point, it's no longer optional.
Yeah. You either pay for the stuff you want, which in this case, you can't even... Like, it's worse than DLC, right? Because at least then, when we're bitching about horse armor, if you didn't want it, you don't buy it. And I hate the fact that I'm going to defend horse armor right now when we made that big stink about it all those years ago. But if you wanted the gold armor, you just bought the gold armor. Yeah. If you wanted the silver armor, you bought the silver armor. You didn't pay Bethesda $10 to spin a wheel in front of you with a 1 in 1,000 chance to get the silver armor, a 1 in a million chance to get a gold armor, and most of the time you just get a sticker that goes on your character that you can't see because the game's in first person.
Looking at you, Overwatch. Something I have a little bit question here. This could just be a weird read, like no one's thinking about this. I could be thinking about this too hard. When they say summer is a very active time in our foot community, well, soccer, which FIFA is big in 2 areas, Europe and Brazil. No matter what time of year it is, it's always summer in one of those 2 countries because of the Southern Hemisphere. Am I thinking too hard about this?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. You think they're just sticking mainly to a North American/European thing when they're talking about that?
Probably.
Because I read that and I immediately thought of Brazil. Because there are people from Brazil who turn into this show every now and then, and it's for them starting to get winter. So it just, like I said, I could just be thinking too hard about it. Anyways.
I mean, if of all the things that we're crediting EA for, I don't think we can credit them as being open-minded as well. They're probably just thinking of the Northern Hemisphere. Let's be honest.
Nothing in the leaked document contradicts this in any way. It shows how we are supporting engagement in our game during the summer period, not spending. The document literally says all roads lead to foot.
Yes.
It talks about targeted messaging.
Yes.
This is just outright wrong. I'm not going to say it's a lie. I'm going to say it's wrong. We take very seriously our responsibility to provide players a safe and fun experience.
Their game won't stab you in the face, that's for sure.
Nope, very true. We
Doesn't
don't
have thumbs.
Okay, here's this one. We don't encourage young players to spend in our games, and we strongly recommend use of family controls to manage the content that children are allowed to access, their ability to spend in games, or how much time they can play. Our EA platform for PC games also includes dedicated child and teen accounts so that all of our players and parents can make informed choices about how they play, and tools like FIFA Playtime help players control how they play, including the ability to set limits to manage their engagement and purchasing. 1. If the game is entirely safe, why do you need to worry about young players getting into it? 2, it sounds like...
If your sports video game is family friendly, then why do you encourage family friendly controls to manage the content the children have access to?
Exactly. 2, this sounds like EA's arguing for these games to be rated M.
I actually kind of believe that, right?
Yeah, I mean,
it sounds like your game shouldn't be sold to children. If you encourage the use of parental controls to make sure that young people are not exposed to the mechanics that you put in your video game, aka gambling, which is illegal for minors, then maybe your game should be rated M and not sold to minors or distributed.
But David, going on to the article, we also firmly disagree that FIFA or any of our games involve gambling.
Because they don't know what the fuck gambling is.
This is just patently false.
Yeah.
Multiple countries have said this shit's gambling.
Yep.
Stop it. Furthermore, if it's not gambling, then why are you suggesting people use child locks to keep kids getting into it? Because if it's not dangerous to the child, like you say it's not, then why are you encouraging people to take out content to protect your kids from the game? Like I said, to me, that sounds like they're arguing that these games should be rated M. That's what that sounds like to me.
I actually love that. That's great.
Regulators, I do agree with that, by the way. If there's any kind of these mechanics, I think it should be rated M. I don't agree with banning it. I don't want them banned. We've talked about this before. I tend to be more
I want the company to pay for their decisions.
Yeah, that's what I want too. You want this in your game. It is clearly a harmful mechanic that we deliberately keep, that most countries in the world don't let children participate in via gambling, playing cards, slot machines, etc. As such, your game should be rated accordingly.
Yeah. Fucking straight up, let's make it AO.
I don't want it AO. I don't want it AO because of other things that come off. I think M would be hard enough. Back to EA's response. Regulators in multiple countries around the world have stated publicly that there was no cash-out method. Loot boxes do not constitute gambling. Once again, though, multiple countries have also said loot boxes gambling. Belgium specifically said, stop this shit, and EA took this mechanic out.
Yep.
Back to the response. We take great care to ensure that our games are played as designed, including by taking action against those who violate our rules of trading outside the game. That's them referencing the story we had a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, that's the shot at their own employees selling the shit for money.
Right, but you can't. But didn't they just say there's no cash out method?
Yeah, right.
But if I can trade items and then, okay, so the cash out method isn't in the game. But what I can do, David, is I can give you some money and then you give me the item through the game.
Oh, weird how that works.
That's a cash out method with literally just one extra step. We do if they really wanted to stop that, by the way, they would tie the items to the account
as soon as you unlock it. Yeah.
Yep. That's something you can easily like that do, but they know there's money in this shit.
Mm-hmm.
We do not believe that there is merit in any of these. Let me start. Sorry. We do not believe there is merit in any of the recent litigation filed in the U.S. or Canada, and are confident the courts will agree. Which is the main reason why they're putting this statement out, by the way, because they're undergoing litigation right now.
Yep.
Recently, a U.S. federal court judge dismissed a related case, noting that the, quote, lack of any real-world transferable value to items takes them outside of gambling laws. Judges are wrong all the time, by the way.
They're also banking. They are banking on the fact that the laws are currently not caught up with, like, electronic commerce and the internet, as they normally are not.
Right.
But they're actively poking the fucking beehive that me and you have rallied against for literal years now. Stop fucking up video games so much that they come under government scrutiny.
Yeah, because no one wants that.
You fucking idiots.
Furthermore, this judge is just flat out wrong when the judge said lack of any real-world transferable value. Well, David, if I'm willing to spend $1,000 for that item, it clearly has real-world transferable value. Clearly.
Yep.
Like, there's judges are wrong all the fucking time. And this is one of those cases where that judge is flat out wrong.
Or the judge was given a very specific set of information.
I'd be very curious to note what this related case is. I want to know what that is. Because they didn't link to it. They just said a related case. So again, back to the article. So again, supported by all these perspectives from authorities, we do not believe any aspect of EA games constitutes gambling. From literally the one cherry-picked source they said was this one judge. Back to this. We hope to see the facts more accurately represented in the future. In the meantime, we continue to work every day to ensure our FIFA Ultimate Team players have the best possible experience playing the game they love.
Notice that they leave out the entirety of the rest of the FIFA audience. That's my favorite part, is the fucking closing line. We continue to work every day to ensure that our devoted fans that pay extra for the Ultimate Team package have the best possible experience playing the game they love. And everyone that has not yet paid the money to unlock the full video game, you should make sure you buy the Ultimate package, because the version you bought is inferior.
Even their fucking response guides you to the FIFA Ultimate Team.
Dude.
There are so many things contradictory and just wrong in this. And note, they're not denying this report exists. They very clearly say, hey, you just don't have the full context.
They're supporting it. They're saying, yeah, absolutely. we are trying to get people to do this because we want them involved in our video game. You want them spending all of their money on your video game. Yeah.
Provide me with the full context then.
Yep.
That's all. Give me access to the full document.
Or how about you give us some more information about this court case?
That's what was the developer recent? What was it? It wasn't Tiny Build. It was there was a company very recently that posted their entire employment agreement, Raw Fury. When they went, hey, here's our legal document that you sign when we publish your game. Why can't EA do something like that? It's not like they can't release a legal document.
Sure.
Or is it because it'll affect their current ongoing litigation that they have going down right now?
Maybe.
The attitude behind some of these lines in here too. Sorry, I got allergies, so my throat's killing me right now. We hope to see facts more accurately represented. Sorry, I need to mute this microphone real quick. Sorry.
We hope that the facts are more favorably represented, I think is what they mean. We don't believe in the way things are presented because the way they are presented, it makes us look bad.
I apologize about that. Like, my throat just got real dry all of a sudden, and now it's dying.
Yeah, it'll be fine. Shake it out.
We hope to see these facts more accurately represented in the future. We firmly disagree that FIFA or any of our games involve gambling. Well, I'm glad you disagree, but the law in some countries says otherwise. What was the other one? The result being a sensationalized story with a misrepresentation of the facts. They're essentially calling the person who the people who wrote the articles on this, and by extension, but we didn't write but reported on it, us, liars.
I love the fact that they're saying, hey, the people that wrote a story based on that piece of internal documentation that was leaked, they're making things up.
And hey, well, they don't say they're making it up.
Based on all the words that we printed and sent out to our employees.
They don't say they're making it up. They just say that they are misrepresenting what they are actually meant. And
like I said, if we see the document, then this could all go away really, very quickly, one way or the other.
To EA's benefit, games journalism, much like most online journalism, does fall victim to clickbaity headlines, taking shit out of context, making mountains out of molehills, etc. This is not one of those cases. Anyways, that kind of wraps it up. Of course, links to this will be provided down below. Let us know what you think about EA. Do they have a case here, or are they just full of shit like I think they are?
I think that they are only full of shit.
Agreed. David, why don't you go ahead and lead us off to the next story here? We got some boring-ass business numbers for you.
I love business numbers. Let's talk about something. This story from Video Games Chronicle. Microsoft's gaming business reports a 50% jump in quarterly revenue. So yes, we're going to talk about numbers for a little bit, but then we're going to talk about why, and it's going to be interesting. Just stick around. It'll be great. Boosted by the launch of the Xbox Series X/S in November of 2020, the division's third quarter revenue was up 50% year over year to $3.53 billion. Xbox content and service revenues increased 34%, driven by strength from third-party titles, Xbox Game Pass subscriptions, and first-party titles. You know, all the things that you can access on those two systems. And Xbox hardware revenue was up 232%, driven by continued demand for the new consoles. Microsoft said gaming revenue and Xbox content and services revenue include ZeniMax, Bethesda's parent company, which was acquired by Xbox for $7.5 billion during the third quarter. And according to Nico Partners senior analyst Daniel Ahmad, who is, you know, all over Twitter all the time.
ZiggyEX, I believe, on Twitter.
Yep. The results represent the best Q1 fiscal year Q3 for Microsoft's gaming division since they started breaking out numbers about 6 years ago. So, what we're saying is Xbox's gaming division looks real fucking good because we have a mantra on this show, and if you paid attention for any amount of time, it's always, if your numbers are bad, you don't say shit, you just say buzzwords. But if the numbers are good, you drop hard figures, and that's what Microsoft just did.
And that is exactly why I have these hard numbers in here, is that Microsoft seems to be very pleased with what's going on here.
Like, hey guys, we're making a shit ton of money on video games right now. It turns out people like the new Xbox. Weird. They also seem to like Xbox Game Pass.
I'd be very curious to know how much money they actually make on Game Pass, because there's a belief out there that Game Pass actually makes them no money. That they actively lose money on Game Pass for the exclusivity.
That they're paying so much for licenses and everything else?
Yes. I think I have heard the number that for it to be profitable, Game Pass needs 100 million subscribers.
Wow.
But that is, I don't know if that's true or not. That is just a number I've heard being tossed around.
Yeah, but if you're to listen to people like me, then they should be well on their way there.
Sony quarterly results will be expected May 12th, by the way.
Yep.
We will see if Sony gives an in-depth
I wonder
accounting
if
like
some
this.
of this is due to the fact that it's so much easier to buy an Xbox than a PS5 right now.
I'm sure that's part of it, and even then, the Xboxes are limited. From what I understand,
they're rare, but it's so much easier to find one.
From what I understand, PlayStation 5 has still outsold Xbox.
Yeah, that's interesting, because those are like impossible to get.
Right. I don't know if that's just in America or worldwide, though. It makes sense worldwide because the Xbox really only has a foothold in America. Everywhere else, it's kind of, I don't want to say like a forgotten machine, but in some countries, they just might not, like Japan, for example, don't even bother.
Yeah, that's fair.
While talking about Sony, while comparing the two, we have next story here, also from Video Game Chronicle. By the way, I love that site. Take a look at them. They're doing some good work over there. Headline: Sony confirms it's testing PlayStation Plus Video Pass in Poland. The service, which was leaked via PlayStation.com yesterday, allows PS4 and PS5 users in Poland to access over 20 movie and television shows from Sony Pictures as part of the PS Plus subscription, with more content being added every 3 months. The test will run for a year in Poland. Sony Interactive Entertainment's Global Services VP Mick McGuire told Spider's Web. The execs at the company decided to hold the test in Poland based on specific data, and that Sony would monitor the popularity of the service before deciding on a full launch. We want to see how players would benefit from such a service, he explained. What titles do they watch, what do they care about, and how often do they use them? Last month, Sony announced that PlayStation Store would stop offering TV and movie content for purchase or rental later this year. So essentially, David, it sounds like your PlayStation Plus subscription might be getting a couple extra freebies if this test goes through. At least one would hope they would do that and not increase the price of PlayStation Plus.
No, I bet you can guess which one they're more likely to do. The funny thing to me about this, right, is we just talked about Xbox making all this money. This is Sony's new thing. They've got the PlayStation Plus Video Pass. There's a whole lot of just nothing happening over in PS Now. Meanwhile, at the same time, going back to Game Pass really quick, you know that they just added like 120 FPS support for a bunch of the EA games that are on Game Pass? Yeah. Like 13 of them. Just as a very easy, when interviewed, oh, we just have to flip a switch and all of a sudden the game is running at increased frame rates, increased fidelity, whereas if we wanted to do that on PS5, we'd have to rework the whole thing.
David, the interest to me in this story isn't about being able to get TV or movie shows on PlayStation Plus.
Well, that's mainly what I'm talking about. How exciting is it to get movie rentals for PS Plus? Give me better video games, bro.
If this was part
That's what
of the
we're
package,
here for.
If this was part of a package where I just got some movies and TV shows as a part of it, okay, cool, that's one thing. But I look at the story a little bit deeper. This is part of the walls between Sony's various divisions coming down. Because remember, Sony isn't just PlayStation.
That's
It's
true.
Sony Pictures, Sony Music, etc. And one of the things that when Jim Ryan took over, and this is not going to be an anti-Jim Ryan thing, I promise you.
Surprisingly. Well, I'm not leading it, so that makes sense.
Is that when he took over, one of the big initiatives was to tear down these walls from the various institutions. This is part of that. This is part of the merging of Sony Pictures and PlayStation and all that into one organization. They're starting to cross over with their media, which I think is why you don't get Days Gone 2, but instead you get another Last of Us remake. Why they're talking about making more Uncharted again. Despite, I get that those franchises are huge. Or Ghost of Tsushima, for example. The reason why they're focusing on those franchises rather than, say, Infamous, Days Gone, or all the other plethora of Sony franchises that have been dormant forever, is because those 3 franchises I mentioned all have either a TV show or a movie attached to them right now.
Yep.
So this is Sony doing that thing where they're like, you're not just going to play the game, but you're going to watch the TV series and the movie that's all going to release at the same time.
And we're going to sell you the soundtrack.
Mm-hmm. This is part of that. This is part of those walls that were keeping all these various divisions kind of partitioned into their own categories, torn down. And I think people should be worried about that, because at the end of the day, the one thing that was keeping Sony afloat was PlayStation. Everything else from Sony wasn't been doing too good.
So, do you remember when Xbox was all excited to talk about their video game console, and then for an hour and a half they talked about how it was your set-top TV box and you could watch football on it and shit?
This has shades of that.
Remember how excited everyone was? Oh, wait, they got fucking dumpstered that year.
Yeah, this absolutely
no one gave a
shades
shit
of
about that. We're here to talk about video games, so just talk about video games. That's all we actually want from you.
Yeah, agreed.
I mean, I understand that there's a whole bunch of people that want more than that from Sony. Hell, I want some better audio systems from them, because they've been slipping.
Well, why would Sony, who like invented the Walkman, think about giving you actual audio equipment? Why would a company who literally is comprised of Sony Music want to deliver you the best audio experience you can possibly have?
I just don't know what's going on with those guys.
No,
it's bumming me out.
This is not a positive or negative story, it just is, but I wanted to bring it up because I could care less. It's being tested in Poland. It might come.
Are you guys excited?
Of a year.
Show of hands. Who would be super hype that if you have your PS Plus subscription, every month you get a free movie pass, or you get access to these TV shows? That it'd all probably be Sony Pictures distributed, because they're not going to pay extra for any licensing fees.
By the way, expect anything that's associated with Sony that's currently on Netflix or Hulu to also go bye-bye.
And you got to watch it with your PS Plus subscription, so add that to your mini subscriptions.
Yep.
Oof.
That's another takeaway from this. But I wanted to mention it because it is another example of those walls being torn down, that they're trying to become like one united company rather than 3 or 4 separate companies doing their own thing under the Sony name.
And like, I guess I get it, because you have the Microsoft argument, because they really are one company, right? Their game studio and their operating software and all the things that they do it's just kind of one big thing.
I don't blame Sony for making this move. I'm not saying that this is bad. I'm just saying it highlights more of what we've been hearing behind the scenes at Sony, that they're trying to go in a different direction.
I guess it's just not the good news I want to hear from that camp right now.
And this is PlayStation.
I want to hear, hey guys, we've got 1 million new PS5s on their way, and you can buy them, and they're on sale. And oh, by the way, we figured out what's going on with Gran Turismo, and that's also coming out too.
And this is a way to add value to the PlayStation Plus, assuming its cost doesn't go up.
Yeah.
Also, as far as Gran Turismo goes, by the way, that is a franchise that is dying. I know you love Gran Turismo, but it's every...
Dude, you can't tell me it's dying when it's been dead for like 11 years. Like, come on.
I just know that the most recent release at GT6 sold like half as many copies as the previous.
Sport, the one that wasn't a single-player Gran Turismo game and completely changed the formula and was instead an FIA-approved multiplayer racing game that is actually going to be in the Olympics. Yeah, that game sucks.
Yeah, you know more about the racing stuff than I do. But Gran Turismo as a franchise has been decreasing in significant player base. It's been bleeding numbers every year, so...
It's because they stopped making video games, dog.
Yeah, that's a side story. David, why don't you have this upcoming one up here, because it deals with something that we both harp on all the time.
Oh, since we're already on the train, CD Projekt Red, by the way, talking about people with bad ideas, they refunded about 30,000 copies of Cyberpunk 2077 in a story from GamesIndustry.biz. In a post-earnings conference call today, the day of the story, CD Projekt executives gave some insight into how many people actually took the studio up on its offer. CD Projekt reported spending PLN 8.46 million, or 2.23 million US, on its Help Me Refund program, which includes the cost of processing refund payments to customers around the world. When asked about how many copies of the game that equated to, an executive said it worked out to around 30,000 requests. Cyberpunk 2077 sold 13.7 million copies through the end of 2020 in total. It is also important to note that Cyberpunk 2077 is still to this day not available for purchase on the PlayStation Store.
I wanted to bring this up, David, because there's a couple things I want to focus in on. And as I like to do on this show, the story itself is not what I want to focus in on. but the stuff around the story. 1, 30,000 Cyberpunk 2070 copies returned. That
To
number
them
is not
directly.
correct. Yes. This is what kind of drives me nuts. Now, to these places, to the various sites' credit, I have seen them updating the stories. But when this first came out, the headline makes it sound like only 30,000 copies of Cyberpunk were returned. But
Which
the
is
reality is...
patently untrue.
Yeah. The reality is, it's only 30,000 copies returned via CD Projekt Red's Help Me Refund program. It does not count the amount of returns that Microsoft, PlayStation, Steam, Best Buy,
Because
Walmart...
you remember, they had that whole release of, well, if you don't like it, just refund it. And whenever it said, how do we refund it? They said, well, ask the person you bought it from. And then Sony started offering refunds, and then Sony pulled it from the store.
This headline bothers the fuck out of me because CD Projekt Red released that 30,000 number deliberately knowing it's going to make people go, oh, well, I guess people liked it because no one bothered to return it. And these websites just ran with that number without thinking about it in their haste to get this out quickly. Now, since then, a lot of places have been updating. Update, this number does not include blah, 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 blah. But what they should have done was originally write the articles where it said, this number does not include this. We have reached out to confirm, or at least waited for confirmation, one way or another.
Right.
But there's that
But you
rush.
can't wait for cremation. You can't do that because then people will click on somebody else's page.
There's the rush to be first, and there's the problem with churn where someone sees the headline, and then they write about the headline, and then they write about the headline, and they write about a headline. And to be fair, the show does the same thing. We just read other headlines we see, but at least I try to go back to the source.
Well, there's also the fact that we wait like a week for the news.
Yeah.
And so by the time we're talking about it, we actually have all the stuff worked out. So we're actually telling you, everything we've figured out so far.
Now to get to the big part that I can't stand.
Yes.
Cyberpunk 2077. Last year, this is not counting any sales from January on. This is all the way to December 31st, which would be like a month and change. Sold 13.7 million copies.
Mm-hmm.
Don't fucking pre-order games anymore. Because I guarantee you that number came from pre-sales. If you bought Cyberpunk and you had a great time with it, awesome. I'm glad you're enjoying it. I don't want to take that away from you. I'm not going to tell you that you're bad for playing a crap game or anything like that. If you like the game, cool. But I will say, even if the game worked flawlessly, that game is not what was sold to people.
Not even a little bit.
That game is not this expansive RPG with multiple branching paths, with all this extra, like... I could go on about it, but if you just spend 5 minutes on YouTube looking up what was promised compared to what was delivered for Cyberpunk, take the technical problems out of it.
Just content-wise.
Just content-wise. It is absolutely nowhere close to what was promised. And that is my bigger problem with that. Because even if CD Projekt Red spends a year hammering out every single bug to make it work on PlayStation 4 and 5 and etc. and all that good stuff, it is still not the game that was promised. It's not the game that it's not. There's just no way around that. And I get the feeling that of those 13.7 million copies, a good number of those people bought it, played it for 30 minutes, and went, fuck this, I'm out. And a lot of people just went, it's not worth it me dealing with it, because there's still a mentality of you can't return something once it's been opened. Mm-hmm. Because this was this specifically was a special case most of the time, unless you're on like Steam. If you're on PlayStation, for example, you ain't going to be able to return a copy of the game. That's why PlayStation just pulled it.
Yeah, because they were sick of getting refund requests.
Right. Most box stores, if it's a video game specifically, if it's opened up, you're fucked.
Yep.
So a lot of people just went, well, that sucks, and chucked it aside.
Or they sold it to GameStop for,
pennies on the
$28.
dollar. 13.7 million copies of Cyberpunk 2077, which was almost universally, I don't want to say panned, but almost every reviewer that I can think of in the account said, do not buy this, it needs to wait. Do yourselves a favor and wait. Don't pre-order. If you want to buy it the day it comes out, buy it the day it comes out. But there's no need to pre-order it. And at least that way you wake up, You wake up, you get ready to go to the GameStop, you listen to your podcast or you read reviews online, take 5 extra minutes and go, oh, I don't want that. Or go, okay, that sounds fine to me. But just wait. I can promise you Cyberpunk wasn't going to sell out.
Yeah, there's no way. Video games don't sell out anymore. It's not that kind of thing.
I can promise you the digital pre-order is sure as fuck not going to sell out.
True that.
So you wake up. I know some people are like, no, I need to play it right at midnight. We need to go. Okay, cool. I get it. You want to do your preload on it so that when midnight hits go. It is worth waiting 1 day. That's all I ask. 1 day.
No, I can't wait a day because then the whole game will be spoiled for me on the internet.
Then go to bed and start it tomorrow morning and don't look at the internet. That's all. Just wait. It's all I'm asking, man. Just wait. Take a breath and go, okay, I know the hype for this is big, but let's just wait a day. And how much money could have been saved if that didn't happen?
But if I wait and don't pre-order it and don't buy it on day one, then I'll never get a sequel. That's what the Days Gone guy said.
Oh, you know what? I was going to actually include that guy's comments in the show, but the iron on that felt a little too cold at this point to really hammer it home.
That's why I just slid it in on a Cyberpunk joke.
Right. I was wanting to mention that guy's comments. I think he said something along the lines of like, don't blame me. There's not a sequel if you didn't buy it at full price or something along those lines.
Yeah, that's pretty close to what he said.
Yeah. Anyways, don't pre-order things.
Just don't pre-order things.
It doesn't even have to be reviewed.
The special limited edition, guess what? There's still tons of those. There's always tons of those. You're never going to miss out on those. The only time you should pre-order things is if it's a physical release of an older indie video game on places like Limited Run.
Yeah,
because
or if it's
those
something
are absolutely going to sell out, but luckily those video games are usually already out, so you can play them and know if you like them before.
Or if it's something unusual like Vanessa Classic or something like that. Like either way, that's physical. If it's digital, then you have no need to pre-order it.
Classic. That wasn't worth the money.
But they were limited. You see the point I'm talking about.
Yeah, I get it.
God damn it, David. Ruining everything.
I'm sorry. Do you want me to fly?
Yeah.
Into this next article
from
gamesindustry.biz?
Yeah.
People Can Fly, or the people that made Outriders, have acquired Phosphor Studios. So the developer, which is behind titles such as Dark Meadow and the Brookhaven Experiment, will become People Can Fly Chicago. It'll be People Can Fly's 7th studio and the 3rd one in North America. The terms of the acquisition were not disclosed. People Can Fly CEO Sebastian
Wojciechowski.
Thank you. I'm not good at that.
Wojciechowski
Commented, taking over the Phosphor Games team is simply an execution of our strategy announced during PCF Group's recent IPO. And there you go. Studios buying studios, making mega studios. You can't be independent anymore. Your only hope is to be just successful enough that somebody else gives you money for the entirety of your life's work.
I saw an article somewhere, by the way, that it didn't break it down, so I didn't add it. It was today, and it was either from GamesIndustry.biz or one of the more industry-focused ones rather than the sensationalized-focused ones. That, like, the first quarter of 2021 saw, like, a 75% increase in mergers and acquisitions compared to the previous year or something along those lines. And I was going to bring it up in here, but they gave that number, but they didn't break down, like, well, was it a company buying a design team, or was it a studio, or were they buying an HR thing? I wanted more details on it, and it didn't get into it. But yes, the great merger of companies continues. I know that People Can Fly is a smaller studio, and I'm glad that it seems Outriders has been very successful for them.
I like it.
I didn't know they had 6 studios already.
Right?
I didn't know they were that big. I wonder what their overall headcount is. I wonder if some of these studios are literally just 20 people like in Barcelona.
Maybe they've got 7 studios, but it's like 112 people.
Yeah, or like Phosphor Studios. I don't think that's a massive game, because I looked at what they did. Like the Brookhaven Experiment is a VR shooter. Dark Meadow, I actually couldn't find anything on Steam about. I like tried to look this game up and I couldn't find it anywhere. So I don't see them being a huge studio. It could only be like 10 people. But either way, I'm glad that People Can Fly is expanding. I am disappointed to hear about more and more consolidation, because as we talked about, that's probably a Bad thing overall, but at least People Can Fly is still small enough that it's not going to be too much of a problem.
They have 300 employees.
Oh, shit. I was way wrong on that. Hold on. Who? People Can Fly?
People Can Fly.
Oh,
okay. 300 employees.
Over 7 studios, so you're looking at about...
Yep.
I can't math.
No, we're not here for math. We're here for news.
Right. Yeah, that makes more sense. Either way, it's still a pretty small team. 300 people over 7 studios. That's not many per studio. So there could be like a couple of them that are maybe... You figure they have their main one, which is probably 100, and then the other 6 have the remaining 200. Those are small teams. Anyways, we have one more article here today, and this falls into that category of stories that you'd expect me to be about me. This is via GameStop. Man arrested for allegedly attempting to assassinate Genshin Impact studio founders. Shanghai police have arrested an individual who allegedly planned to assassinate the founders of MiHoYo, the Chinese studio behind Genshin Impact. According to various reports, the man reportedly was armed with a knife and managed to infiltrate MiHoYo building before he was apprehended on April 24th. Fortunately, no one was harmed in the incident, and the would-be assassin is now in police custody. As for why anyone would supposedly plot the murder of video game developers, the individual is apparently upset over recent changes to MiHoYo's other game, Honkai Impact 3rd. David?
So, they changed one of the mobile titles, and this dude got so tilted about it, he went to assassinate the company founder. That is next-level gamer rage.
The language in this article is what drew me to it. Because it's not like he went to kill a bunch of people. He went to assassinate people, and he infiltrated this building. They make him sound like he's fucking Agent 47 in the story. First of all, don't do shit like this, please. This is video game.
Yeah, I think our first bylaw is don't be dicks.
Yeah,
being an assassin definitely constitutes being a dick.
Only in a video game, man. Only in a video game. Or if they pay you a lot of money.
Dude, no.
Don't like, just take a breath. People are going to change games. Don't send death threats or anything like this. And in an adjacent story to video gaming, this was anime news. There was that studio in Japan that some nut job set on fire and killed like 13 people.
Jeez.
Yeah, this was like last year or the year before or something like that. I don't have the details. It could have been more than 13. It could have been like 17 or 18. But he was so pissed off at this animation studio, he like burnt it down. This shit happens. This shit should be taken seriously because you can have a case like that happens. Just don't be a dick, please.
I'm going to go ahead and do a unusual shout out for the show that I think hasn't been done in a while. You should see a therapist. Actually, everybody should. Turns out we're all crazy. And therapy's not bad for you. It's good. You, for sure, my friend, need to see a therapist.
No, I'm good. What I like to do is I like to just bottle up all that rage, and if I just think about it really hard enough, it compresses into a little tiny ball that goes to the back of my spine right here, and it just gets deposited like a little marble. You know, like one of those things you go to a store and you put the quarter in and you turn the thing and the egg comes out? It's like that, but only it's just full up with that stuff.
Yeah, they call that an ulcer, bro. Those kill you.
No, ulcers in your stomach. This is my head. We call those aneurysms.
Jesus. Well, besides that exciting event to look forward to, how about what else we got this week?
That does it for the news. So we do have one upcoming event this week. Another Sony State of Play is happening from Twitter. See the mysterious Lootbox in action in today's Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart trailer. Then tune into the State of Play on Thursday, 2 p.m. Pacific Time for an extended gameplay from Insomniac Games, plus updates on a pair of upcoming indie titles. So if you missed it, they gave Sony showed off some more gameplay of Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. They named the mysterious female Lootbox. It's Rivet. The internet immediately started drawing her in pornographic situations, I'm sure, now that she has a name. And they will be going to more details on that Thursday at 2 p.m. along with a pair of upcoming indie titles. Notice how specific they are in saying this.
They have to be now because people would read way too much into these like direct style presentation announcements.
How
many times has Nintendo been harassed over and over? You didn't show Zelda. It's the Nintendo Indie Direct.
Yeah, and thank
I
God
mean,
they are
no matter
being
what
this
they
direct.
say, people still don't know how to read, so they're still going to get hate mail on the internet. But at least they're being upfront about it.
Yes, tamper
Transparency
your
is key. People, we love it.
expectations. Last year,
Yeah.
they would have said, and more announcements coming. And then everyone would have thought it was like, oh my God, here's the release date for God of War, or here's blah, 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 blah. If you're going to do that, don't even allude
Ratchet
to
and
it.
Clank Rift Apart and 2 indie titles.
Yes.
That is this week's State of Play.
And that will be 2 p.m. Thursday, Pacific Standard Time. David, Thursday is like 2 goddamn days away, and I can't wait
That's
that long.
so far.
That is too goddamn long for my ADD.
You might have an aneurysm by then.
Grind. No. Not an aneurysm. That part of the brain is filled up with just nothing but hate at this point. Boredom is an entirely different thing. That's like a stroke?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. I mean, you have a stroke from boredom. To keep me from stroking out, however, David, what can I do to keep myself occupied between now and Thursday so I can be disappointed?
Oh boy. Okay, I think you want to hear about new releases, so let's talk about them. First up on this week, we have Second Extinction releasing on the Xboxes, all 4 of them. This is a dinosaur FPS co-op shooter that has been out on PC for a bit. It's fairly popular. It's got good reviews. Big map, big dinosaurs, big guns. Face a never-changing threat level with your friends. Second Extinction is an online FPS with a bite. This is built basically as a horde dinosaur shooter. It is co-op based. Squad survival is a must. It specifically says in the tag that it's not built for solo players. You will probably get your ass beat trying to play this game by yourself. So think more along the lines of your Left 4 Deads, of your Vermintides, of your the fixed version of Deathwing. You know,
I feel kind of bad
kill dinosaurs
for the PR team on this one. Not because the game's bad or anything like that, but because they kept reaching out to me to play Second Extinction on stream, and I after a while I had to respond like, guys, I love that you're reaching out to me on this one, but a co-op 4-player shooter is as outside of my wheelhouse as humanly possible. You can give me the code to it, and I'm not going to do anything with it. I'm sorry. But they were super nice. They were like because they were just wanting like even the most basic of coverage on it, and I was like, there's nothing that relates to me in this. I'm sorry. Your code would be better given to someone else.
Well, hey man, if they don't want to give you a code, but they want to give me and 3 more people a code, we can do it that way. I'll get them feedback. Also out this week, Legend of Keepers, Switch, PC, and Mac. This is a strategy turn-based dungeon crawler, more dungeon mastery. So when I first looked at this trailer, I thought it was more of a fantasy-based, way more lighthearted in tone, Darkest Dungeon style game. And I mean that just from the, characters walk to the right and then monsters show up and then they fight and they die. Except at some point I realized that you don't actually control the heroes in this game. You're the one summoning the monsters and traps.
I'm immediately more interested in this game.
So this is a dungeon master game about trying to keep the heroes out, killing them, you get traps, you do all the thing. But instead of being a top-down isometric view like the Dungeon Keeper series,
correct.
I can never remember. This is built with that 2D side-scrolling style combat in mind. So it is a mix between a dungeon management game and a roguelite. It still has those elements, right? But you've been hired as a dungeon manager by the Dungeons Company. Your job is simple: protect the damn dungeon.
Okay.
Also out this week, before I forget, hits the Xboxes and the Switch. This is an indie exploration walking sim. A woman alone in a house, a mystery, and a love story. Explore the present to uncover the past in a short story of love and loss and a life well lived. This is a super heavy narrative exploration game. It's a game about dementia and what happens when you can't hold on to the things that you've done or the people that you've loved.
Oh god, that specifically, like that topic, like losing one's mind specifically bothers me.
It's a adventure game about losing your mind.
That is that I don't want to go as far as to say it's like a phobia of mine.
It's like crushing though, right?
Yeah. It reminds. Did you ever play To the Moon?
No.
Okay, so To the Moon was this story-driven. It was made in RPG Maker, or at least it looks like it was, but it's not an RPG at all. It's just this story. And it's about these two two workers for this company who like fulfill final requests by going in your mind and like rearranging your memories.
I remember that game. Okay.
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. And this one guy just was like, I just wanted to visit the moon. So their job is to go into a mess he's dying and like rearrange his memories in such a way that he thinks he's actually been to the moon.
Yeah.
That's
Cool
along
game.
one of those lines, and I actually played that game all through. It's an amazing game if you're into like just story-based games. If you can get behind like the Gone Homes or this Before I Forget or anything like that, that game is like really emotional and hits me at specific levels because it's still like one of the most terrifying things I can think of I could ever have was like Alzheimer's or something like that. Because I don't
Well, if
want
you
to
need
kind
some
of
more of that, Before I Forget, it does look very good, and it's getting some praise. So take a look if you're interested.
yeah. So that definitely hits one of those things where I'm like legitimately like that like just the subject matter skeeves me out a little bit.
Gotcha. Well, if that's not your fancy, you could play Total War Rome Remastered out this week, which is fun for me because it's Rome Total War, right? It was always Rome Total War.
Arguably one of the best of that franchise.
And they switched to Total War : here's a new genre or title or game series. And was Rome Total War the only one that actually started with the location first and then it went to Total War blank, Total War blank? That's how it worked, right?
No, I'm positive that wasn't the case. I need to look this up.
When I don't remember when the breakover happened because I think Total War Rome 2 is the title of the second Rome-based Total War game. I don't think it's Rome Total War 2. I think it's Total War Rome 2.
Total War Shogun 2 in 2011 is the first time it went that way. But it was Shogun Total War, Medieval Total War, Rome Total War, then yeah, Medieval 2, Empire, Napoleon. Then when Shogun 2 came, it became Total War Shogun 2.
Gotcha.
So there were.
But Rome came out after Shogun, right? Rome 2 rather.
It went Shogun Total. It went Shogun, Medieval, Rome, Medieval 2, Empire, Napoleon. Shogun 2 was when the switch happened. Rome 2, Attila, Warhammer, Warhammer 2, etc.
I'm back on board. Anyway, off of that huge tangent of funnily named video game franchises, Total War Rome Remastered is the remaster of the arguable best Total War game. This is the
it's up there.
This is like the defining title, I guess you could say. Award-winning strategy game series, remastered 4K, multiple improvements to visuals as well as refinements to gameplay. Time to revisit a true classic. Not everyone gets a second chance to conquer the Roman Empire. That's a funny tagline. I like that. But
I've not.
The Total War games
actually.
are, in my opinion, all kind of solid. I personally think that you just need to pick your flavor, right? I think that if you're a Warhammer fan, you should play the Warhammer game. If you're a Romance of the Three Kingdoms, then you should play the
Three Kingdoms one.
The Three Kingdoms one. You know, just kind of find your spot. They're
that
all pretty
Warhammer
good.
game specifically is real goddamn good, and I'm really looking forward to the third one coming out.
Yeah, but you're also way all up like deep,
I am
firmly
up
embedded
Games
inside
status.
game Workshop. So,
and I fucking hate it, but I am deep. I'm
you're so far up there.
I'm so deep into Games Workshop that I haven't played the actual game in like 2 or 3 years, and I just bought a model that's used for fantasy, which I don't even own an army for. I'm a 40k guy, but I like the way this model looks so much. I just want to build him and paint him. Although, admittedly, he can be used for 40k as well once the rules come for him, because he's a demon and you can play them in both.
Okay, yeah. We don't need to get into tabletop. We don't have that kind of time.
We're not fucking nerds on this channel. We don't talk about board games.
Insurmountable hits PC this week. This is a roguelike strategy adventure game. This seems interesting to me. So, it's basically a tactics game, but it's about climbing mountains. So you're confronting various terrains as a lonely mountaineer and enduring the countless dangers of climbing. Many tough decisions await you in a risky environment. So it kind of has that isometric top-down spot where you're, choosing your character, you're choosing where you need to go, but you need to be strategic about like using your action points and the path that you take because you're trying to climb a mountain with the normal perils of mountain climbing. So it's like a really interesting video game style that they chose for this video. Like, I don't know. It's super interesting. Take a look at me. Maybe I'm just an idiot. I don't know. I just thought it was fun. Farm Manager 2021 hits PC this week as well. This is a sim strategy. Please note, this is not the next farming simulator. This is Farm Manager. Key difference. Farming Simulator is the first-person one where you're, driving tractors and doing that whole thing.
Surprisingly big on Steam or Twitch.
Farm Manager is the more like City Skylines, SimCity style farm management game where it's a top-down view. You know, you're actually managing the whole facility. You're not just one person driving a tractor. So keep that in mind. It's out. R-Type Final 2 hits the Xboxes, PS4, Switch, and PC. The classic arcade shoot-'em-up is back and better than ever with beautifully rendered 3D graphics, exhilarating shoot-'em-up gameplay, and a multitude of stages, ships, and weapons that will allow you to conduct a symphony of destruction upon your foes. I like R-Type. Remember Super R-Type? That game was great.
Yeah. I was more of a Gradius guy. I thought Gradius was always better than R-Type.
That's fair. Well, R-Type Final 2, I think, is cheaper than that Gradius remaster that we had. So
$40 for a digital version.
It has that going for it.
I went to look it up because these shmup classics being released have been
selling for $60, $70, and it's insane.
Yeah, so I was curious to see if R-Type Final 2 would be along those lines, and this is $40 for this.
Yep. But I mean, it does look like they completely remade it. So you got that going for you. There's two more releases I want to talk about this week. First up, we have to talk about the Housemarque PS5 exclusive Returnal coming out this week for $70. The most expensive Housemarque game that they have released. That being said, fuck, I want to play this game.
I might buy this.
Awesome. It looks so damn good.
I might buy this.
If you have a PlayStation.
I do have a PlayStation 5. I'll probably buy this Friday.
Is that I love this studio. Yeah, I think this game looks super fun. If you own a PS5, please, please, please do me a favor and just look at this game because I desperately want this studio to succeed.
I think this is their make or break game. If this flops, I don't think Housemarque exists.
And I'm so worried because it's an exclusive to a system that's almost impossible to buy. And I really like that studio. I really like that team. And I hope Returnal does fantastic. But I am aware of the fact that it is a $70 roguelike from a studio that not a lot of people have played their video games.
I have had amazing experience with Housemarque. If it was like some random studio, I probably wouldn't get it, but it does have that Housemarque name behind it. I keep hearing nothing but amazing things about this game. And it helps that there's just fucking nothing else out right now.
Yeah.
At all.
Right.
I mean,
well, at least until Friday.
Yeah, Returnal comes out.
No, I have something else for Friday.
Well, I guess.
So, for the people that aren't looking for a serious game or a roguelike game, or just want to hang out on the couch, the new Pokemon Snap finally hits Switch this week. It's like the old one, but new.
In fact, it's called New Pokemon Snap.
I'm going to assume that it's $60 and that it will never not be that price for the entirety of both of our lifetimes. Because it's a Nintendo video game.
Never drops their prices. They hold on.
They don't have to.
No, and people still buy it.
Yep. They don't have to, so they don't. The only time you'll see Nintendo games on sale is like Mario Day, and they'll get $5 off.
Yeah,
$59. Other than that, third-party titles will get cheap.
In fact, Breath of the Wild, the very first Switch game that I can think of, launched with the system. It is on Amazon $47.99 right now, but that is because it's on sale through a third-party seller, not Amazon. If you want it on Prime,
on sale,
$60.
$13 off for a 3-year-old video game?
At this point, just over 3 years, I believe.
Wasn't it 2017?
4 years. Shit, yeah, 4 years.
Yeah, so, Nintendo, everybody.
People buy it, though. David, that does it for new releases, which means that also does it for the show as well. This has been GamePoints episode 261, and thank you all for showing up and watching. If you can't join us live, you can always go to youtube.com/GamePointsPC to watch old shows, but we stream every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time right here at twitch.tv/GamePointsPC. And, of course, questions, comments, concerns are welcome. You can be part of the greater GamePoints community if you join the Discord link provided down below. You can follow the show over at Twitter at GamePointsPC, myself, Stephen Brand at CapitalistPig21, and David there at PalShife_Satori. We will be back next Tuesday at the same time with more gaming news. I'll probably stream Returnal by that Monday, depending if I decide to pick it up or not, because it doesn't come out till Friday. I'm not liking this trend of games released on a Friday, by the way.
It's ruining the week flow, right?
The whole reason why this goddamn show is on Tuesday, well, is because you requested it to be. But the reason why it was fine to be on Tuesday is because this was new game day. Stuff drops today, and then we can just go into Wednesday and Thursday streaming stuff and other things like that. But they fucked up my entire timetable with this Friday shit.
Yeah, it's
I
crazy.
hate it.
I can't do
Anyways,
Fridays, Bill. I got to play D&D.
we're out of here. Thank you all for showing up. Take care. Stay safe. Until next time, we'll be seeing you.